You're listening to Contesting Wrestling, Minisode 37. For new listeners, these minisodes are things that come out at the end of the week where we reflect on what we've learned since we recorded the previous episode, because we record the episodes way in advance, but we usually record these minisodes within a few days of dropping them. And we talk about things that are happening in the world that are wrestling related or not wrestling related, and it's usually about 15 to 30 minutes. And yeah, that's the background. Today we are reflecting on our episode with at Space King Bobby, the host of 1 Trillion podcasts, and most specifically the Wrestling Time Machine podcast that Doc has been on.
Yeah, that was good. That was a lot of fun.
Since the episode with Bobby was about some of the sillier matches that WCW did, particularly at their uncensored events, we thought for this minisode we'd have Evan watch another absolutely ridiculous moment in WCW history, which was from Halloween Havoc 1995, the Monster Truck Sumo match between Hulk Hogan and the Giant, who you will know better as the Big Show, which he was renamed when he went to WWF. But yeah, so they were supposed to have this match and then have a wrestling match, which they did, amazingly, considering how the sumo truck match turned out.
By the way, I just want to throw this out there before we start talking. This may be, in fact, the stupidest thing I've ever watched.
It was okay.
Oh wow, that's a great way for Evan to start. It was okay.
Once again, much like the 2 matches we watched for Bobby's episode, this feels like it would have sounded great in the pitch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're sitting around. It's the mid 90s. Cocaine, while not as popular as it was in the 80s, is still in wide use amongst many people in the world. And somebody says, like, all right, like, what if we have Hulk Hogan and the Giant build giant monster trucks and then we'll have a wrestling match but with monster trucks, and we'll use sumo rules because I guess those are the most similar. Those are the rules that you could most easily map onto a match with 2 giant monster trucks instead of people.
I like to picture Dusty Rhodes doing the pitch, because I think Dusty could pitch it in a way that everyone went, man, that's a great idea. Dusty, you're a genius. Let's allocate thousands of dollars to make this happen.
And make it happen in the most boring way possible.
Yeah, they're welded together at the front, and then it's sumo rules. You have to one monster truck has to push the other one out of the circle so that both axles clear it. I think a lot of it had to do with synergy. Don't forget how, white working class WCW is. Even compared to WWF at the time, which was already that was their audience. But WCW did tons of synergistic events with NASCAR, with Sturgis motorcycle event festival.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff recently defended the Sturgis events because even though do you know what Sturgis is, Evan?
No.
Sturgis is the world's biggest motorcycle rally. Essentially, it's a motorcycle convention,
dirt bike kind of stuff.
Yeah, dirt bikes, Harleys.
Harleys really more motorcycles.
And it's
okay. I see.
Once a year, a tiny town in North Dakota called Sturgis becomes the 12th biggest city in the country, as everybody that owns a motorcycle goes there. And WCW did a pay-per-view every year from Sturgis for a few years. And they didn't make any money off of it. They couldn't charge for tickets because it was out in the middle. And, when questioned about it, Bischoff said, do you understand how good of a marketing opportunity going to Sturgis was? How our brand could interact with all the other brands that went there? What kind of business deals we made with the other executives that went there? People don't think about that kind of stuff, but we did.
And also I just want to say, outside of whatever, cultural tensions and associations, watching large trucks drive into each other, I mean, this should be a slam dunk,
It should
right?
be,
This
yeah.
should be fucking exciting. Like, I don't care how good you think you are or better than other people, whatever. No,
No.
huge vehicles slamming into each other and possibly hurting each other, driving over other smaller vehicles and crunching them is very satisfying.
I
and
want to go
awesome
see
to watch.
Truckosaurus
Yeah.
one day. That sounds
Yeah,
like
I-
fun.
I love-
Truckosaurus, yes.
I love
Yeah.
Heenan on commentary here. He literally says, "This is really exciting," in the least convincing way anyone has ever said that phrase.
Oh,
In
Bobby
history.
Heenan's
Because
the
he's not
best.
excited. But the whole thing is just like 5 minutes of the truck spinning in circles.
So before we even get to the trucks, I want to say, at this point in time, at this point in his career,
Hulk Hogan has
Future
no
Big
mustache.
Show- we're going to talk
Okay.
about that in a second.
It was shaved off in a tragic skiing accident.
The Big Show talks like somebody doing an insulting impression of a wrestler,
Yes.
right? Like he talks like somebody who is making fun of somebody else for liking wrestling. Talks that it's I can't even do it without I'm afraid I'm gonna cough
Dude,
if
he
I
was
do
a
it.
guy who was like, what, 18? And suddenly thrust into the main event in WCW facing Hulk Hogan and being billed as Andre the Giant's son. He was pretending to be a wrestling star at that point.
Wow.
That's the thing. They met him and he was playing basketball. And they were like, "Would you like to be a wrestler?" And they this is like one of his first matches. This may have been his first televised match. The one later against Hogan. Like he's that new here. He would not become the intimidating Big Show with his delivery and his timing for several
Yeah,
years.
it's weird because he's putting on that voice. He doesn't need to. His
really doesn't.
honest to God own promo voice is good.
He had fought Hogan before. Didn't he win the title in his first match?
Wasn't that this match?
Was that?
Or
Does
was-
he win? Actually, I didn't watch the actual wrestling match.
Me-
that
we
happened.
don't worry,
I
we
said
didn't
specifically we don't have to watch the
Okay.
wrestling match.
Um,
Did you watch the wrestling match, Evan?
No.
well,
No,
that's
that's
the
a
insane
whole
thing.
different kind of conversation. I
fact-
just wanted to watch the monster truck shenanigans.
The fact that there is a wrestling match is the crazy shit. Because at the end of this, they get out of the monster trucks. Hogan knocks Giant's truck out of the circle. They get out of the monster trucks, and then Hogan murders, ostensibly,
Literally murders.
the Giant by throwing him off the roof. And yet, 10 minutes later, the Giant comes out for their match unscathed.
I mean, that's a way to put the dude over, you gotta admit. He's literally fell off a building and he's like, it's just a flesh wound.
I actually didn't realize that they had a wrestling match after
Yeah.
that. And that, because I was really taken. I was like, oh, wow, like he's dead. I feel like we are led to believe that he has died because there's just no way to survive. And then to have him come out and wrestle and just be fine.
Completely.
I mean, I guess
he's not
I
even
guess-
like wet from the river. He's just here's the main event.
I
This-
just landed normal style.
That
Right.
The finish to that match also includes the debut of the Yeti, who is actually a mummy. I don't know. So I did fast forward to the end of the match, and it was a DQ.
Yeah, that was the deal. That was the angle. Like they give the belt to the Giant, and then as it turns out, Jimmy Hart had turned on Hulk Hogan by putting a stipulation in the contract saying that the title could change hands by DQ, which they then quickly kind of reverse and bullshit through because it's WCW and none of it could possibly matter any less.
Nothing ever really mattered in WCW.
This is why, like, shortly afterwards, they had to do the NWO angle. And they were like, WCW sucks. And all the WCW fans looked at each other and went, yeah, WCW does suck.
Now, this is, like, personally, the reason why I stayed a WWF fan and never became a WCW fan. Like, I think, I bought a couple of WCW pay-per-views or watched a couple, however I was able to access them back in the day. I had a friend who, had a stolen cable box where we could get all the pay-per-views for free for a while. But even going out of my way to go to my friend's house on a school night, on a Sunday night to watch the pay-per-view was a big deal. And I didn't go out of my way for the WCW pay-per-views. And this is a perfect
illustration of why. Like,
WCW pay-per-views were nonsense most of the
hard.
time.
Like, I remember being really excited to find out what would happen here. Like, oh, their monster truck battle. Like, all right, that's interesting. And then the next day at school, you know, I asked a kid, like, hey, you saw the WCW pay-per-view. What happened? And they told me what happened. And it made no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
You're like, glad I didn't watch that.
The what? He off the roof and then he was alive and then they had a match, a DQ, but he's the champ. What is this fucking insanity? No, I will watch for whatever was wrong, and there's certainly many criticisms that you could raise against the WWF product at the time. The outcome of the pay-per-view was intelligible. And that's like a first step, I think.
I found myself very scared and confused early on when there's sort of a shoving match between the Giant and some guy that I couldn't identify at first. He had a bunch of dudes around him, and then as it dawned on me that it was Hulk Hogan without facial hair, it made me really uncomfortable.
The only time
it's
ever.
like Doc without facial hair. It's wrong.
He looks like if Jeremy Irons reallocated all of his stat points from acting into just being a large man.
He looks a lot meaner. The mustache softens him. You know?
He looks like a villain. Jeremy Irons doesn't play good guys, you know. Like Jeremy Irons plays villains and scumbags.
Hogan was doing an angle at this point where he had to like draw out the dark side of Hulk Hogan, so he started wearing black. I think the mustache thing didn't Kevin Sullivan like shave it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Sullivan, who was doing kind of a devil worshiper gimmick with the Dungeon of Doom and everything. You saw him in that ridiculous cage match that we watched. He was also the main booker at this time, and he said his job as booker was to keep Hulk Hogan happy. So, you know, a bunch of mid-level heels it is.
That was basically WCW's as a whole's job. Keep Hulk Hogan happy. And that's another reason it failed.
Eventually, yes.
It would be great if Hulk Hogan shaved his mustache and then came out as like evil Hulk Hogan, like reverse Hulk or something. Like I don't know. I always really wanted there to be a counterpart to Stone Cold Steve Austin that was like Red Hot Rod Dallas, just a guy who like was very like respectful of other people and drank seltzer.
Kurt Angle tried to counteract by drinking milk once, repeatedly actually. And that
as we have covered on this, it is upsetting to watch a grown man drink milk.
Yes,
Don't put it
wrong.
in your media.
I can't wait.
Yeah, even if you're going for your heel.
I can't wait to see the wrestling show that Evan produces with the Fundertaker against Red Hot Rod Dallas. Man, that's gonna be a barn burner.
It is. Yeah, I'm building my stable of characters I'm gonna pitch to Mitch.
We'll get you in. Yeah.
It is. I do sometimes. Sometimes I miss comedy.
Yeah.
And like performing, and then I think about like what literally I like would have to happen. Like I'd have to like go to a place and get on a stage and like say things that I had either written beforehand or are thinking up in the moment, both of which are riddled with problems, and it just seems very exhausting. But I do miss the idea of performing sometimes.
Well, at the moment we're producing, and that's okay.
Producing a lot. We are on, listeners, just so you know, we are on a binge of recording a ton. This is my own fault that this is happening. We are squeezing a ton of recording into a very short period of time because I got classes.
We're tired,
and I don't want to try to do class and this at the same time. So get ready to hear us slowly lose our minds over the next few episodes as we watch and record a staggering amount of content over the next.
Y'all are pretending I didn't lose my mind years ago.
Well, I will say we are determined. We are like committed to producing a regular episode and a premium episode every week and a mini episode every week whenever it can come out. So we're just recording them a lot instead of just saying, we'll take a few weeks off. No, we'll do the work. It'll come out.
Those premium episodes are available at our Patreon, patreon.com/contestingwrestling. You can pay $5 a month and get a premium every week. and probably some other stuff that we're going to do eventually. Though, as we've been talking about a lot in these episodes, if you desire to contribute to to the very important protest movement that is happening right now, and it is not in your budget to also subscribe to our Patreon, you can send us a receipt of your donation to a bail fund or something like that, and we will give you access to the premium episodes anyway.
We'll put some links in the show notes that you can contribute to.
Yeah, if you can do both, that's great. But if you can only do one, we're just sitting here talking about wrestling. Give your money to somebody who really needs it.
Yeah, and just take a
I need your
screenshot of
money.
the receipt
No, I'm kidding.
and send it to us. Just take a screenshot of your receipt and send it to us on Twitter @contestingw, and and then we'll send you a link
And
to the episode.
remember, if you want to complain about Contesting Wrestling, don't send that to the Twitter for Contesting Wrestling. Send it directly to Evan.
Yes.
Yeah, send it to me. I don't want to tarnish the professional standing of the Contesting Wrestling Twitter. I have no such compunctions about my own social media presence. So, this has been Contesting Wrestling. We love you. Thank you. We'll see you next week when our episode is going to be Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is coming out next.
Yeah.
It's going to be very exciting.
It's gonna be boss time.
Oh, yeah.
Contesting Wrestling.
Indeed. Be safe
Have a
out
good
there,
weekend.
people.
Yeah, be
Yes,
safe,
be
everybody.
safe.
Wear your mask.
Bye. Please.
Bye-bye.